Hey traders, hopefully you're having a good day. Welcome to another crypto market update. Got a few things on the on-chain analysis that we're going to be going over before we get into the main topic of this video, which is GrayScale, a public company that is accumulating a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. We'll get into that in great detail a little bit later in the video, but first, just discussing the little bit of a bump we had. This chart is representing the average transaction fee for Bitcoin, and we can see back in the peak when Bitcoin was hitting 18, 19K, 20K, we see that the transaction fees was pretty unbelievable. It hit a peak of above $50 to transact Bitcoin, which is obviously extremely absurd. And we are seeing a little bump now here. It bumped above $6. So, I'm not going to be the person who's going to come up with it, but there definitely has to be a way to allow transactions to be a little bit cheaper when the network does increase. You're not going to buy a $2 cup of coffee and have a $6 transaction on that, obviously. So Lightning Network is an option. But yeah, definitely something to keep in mind if you are transacting in Bitcoin. It might be better to buy an alt or even a stable coin to transact if you are exchanging value for items on the internet. Next thing we're going to look at is the total hash rate that's currently within the market. It's still dropping. It is looking like it's potentially finding some level of a support, but as of right now, it's definitely still really bearish in the momentum for the hash rate, meaning the difficulty is going to adjust to the downside, meaning it's going to take less energy in order for miners to actually mine Bitcoin because there are miners leaving the network, and we can definitely see that within the hash rate. If there's people leaving, the hash rate will decrease, and if there's more people joining the network to try to mine, the hash rate will increase, and that's the difficulty adjustment that Satoshi has created in a pretty brilliant way. Now we're going to get into the main topic of the video, and it's this article that I found on GrayScale. We'll get into it a lot more, but this is the initial article that kind of intrigued me to learn and dig a little bit deeper about the accumulation that GrayScale is actually taking on. So GrayScale is now buying 1.5 times the amount of Bitcoin being mined. I think that's a little bit misleading. They bought a tremendous amount right after the halving, but let's look at kind of the longer term approach they're taking here. We can see independent researcher Kevin Rookie estimated that GrayScale has ramped up Bitcoin accumulation to a rate of equivalent to 150% of the new Bitcoin created since the halving. Now, who is this person? I just want to know who he was. This is his Twitter. I've never heard of this man, but this is the post that was on the Cointelegraph website. And he put GrayScale's Bitcoin Trust bought 18,910 Bitcoins since the halving. Only 12,337 Bitcoins have been mined since the halving. Wall Street wants Bitcoin, and they don't care what Goldman Sachs has to say. So I was curious as to how the math stacked up when we're looking not just after the halving, but on a quarter-by-quarter basis, because I know that all their assets that they're purchasing, which is Bitcoin, will have to be reported publicly because they're a publicly traded company. So we will do some math here. Hopefully you stick with me in terms of how much Bitcoin estimated is being produced or rewarded to miners every day and then every quarter, and then we'll look to see the amount that GrayScale is actually purchasing. So first things first, how many Bitcoin are actually being produced per day and per quarter? Because obviously that will have a huge impact on the supply coming into the market, which is obviously bearish compared to if there's a lack of supply, there's going to be a huge move towards the upside because that's just simple supply and demand. So we see that there is 6.25 Bitcoin that is rewarded every around 10 minutes. So the block reward is 6.25 coins, and the block is produced every around 10 minutes. So I did my estimation of 10 minutes for 6.25 coins, which equates to around 900 BTC a day, which is around 27,000 Bitcoin a month, or 81,000 Bitcoin a quarter. That's kind of the math that adds up from 6.25 coins every 10 minutes. There is 900 Bitcoin that is in new supply given to the miners, as a reward, and 81,000 Bitcoin per quarter. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And then we're going to look at the numbers provided from GrayScale Bitcoin Trust Company. So this is a public company, meaning you can trade it on the over-the-counter or OCT markets. So not a huge market cap. We see almost actually 4 billion. So that's not small, but we can see that because this is a public company, we can actually read the files that they need to keep on record because it's a public company. So how do we find these quarterly and annual files? I personally looked at the quarterly files because they recently came out for Q1, but you can look at the annual files and see more information about the company. So this is the Edgar website. Just Google Edgar SEC company filings, and this is the first thing that will pop up. And then we have fast search. The ticker symbol is GBTC. We can see that right here. So if we search GBTC as a ticker symbol on the fast search, we will then get GrayScale Bitcoin Trust, we can see right here. And then the filings are going to be on the left-hand side. We have the 10Q, which we'll be looking at today. And then we have the 10K, which is an annual report right here. And then the 10Q, which is a quarterly report. So if you click the documents, you will get taken to the document format files, which is the 10Q right here. And this is what we're going to be looking at today, is the quarterly report provided by GrayScale, because we're wanting to know how much they have accumulated since December of 2019 to this current end of Q1, which is March. So let's look at the investments from GrayScale's quarterly report for Q1. In December 31st, 2019, the number of Bitcoin that GrayScale had was 261,192.14 . And then what we have for March 31st, 2020, the end of first quarter, is 304,631.31 . So that's a pretty significant difference. The difference is 43,439 new Bitcoin that they've purchased. That's crazy. And we can see the difference in the amount that they've actually hold in assets. So if you're looking at the math, there's 81,000 Bitcoin that is introduced to the market every quarter, but GrayScale is buying 43,439-ish. If we're just going quarter by quarter, obviously they're not going to have the exact same structure of a investment schedule every single quarter, but just in terms of the amount that GrayScale is purchasing, they're purchasing 53% of all the new Bitcoin that are being rewarded to miners. 53%. So they're purchasing more than 50% of all the Bitcoin mined from January 1st, 2020 into March 31st, 2020. 53%. I found that unbelievable. So this is just one company that is purchasing cryptos, right? So there's going to be more. There's going to be more hedge funds, investment firms that are going to be looking to gain exposure in Bitcoin. Look at Paul Tudor Jones. His, not only just his net worth, but his hedge fund is absolutely huge. I don't know the market cap. I don't exactly know what it is off the top of my head, but he is one of the most well-known investors, traders in the financial world, and he's looking at cryptocurrencies and especially Bitcoin. And if you own $1 billion in assets and you're a portfolio manager, are you going to be looking at the number 55th coin on CoinMarketCap? Of course not. You want liquidity. You need to get in and out without disrupting the market too much and being able to actually sell and having a market to sell, let's say $100 million worth of cryptocurrencies. You need to have that liquidity. And these large institutions, I think, will be looking at the larger market cap tokens in order to actually have exposure in the realm of crypto, but then also have liquidity enough to actually invest in, in the 100 million plus billion range if people are actually looking to do that in the later point in time. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool find. Let's now go to the charts, going to get a little bit of water, and then we'll jump right in. All right, so let's get right into the market here. After our descending wedge, let's actually go on this one. We've already talked about the kind of structure that we're looking at for a little while, so let's zoom out a little bit and then get our snip and just talk about what we currently see within the markets. I think the 2-hour chart would make it a little bit cleaner. Yeah, I think I like that. The 2-hour really looks good on here. All right, so let's get our snip. And also, for anyone who have any questions regarding what we're talking about, if you drop them in the comments, I will answer them at the end of the video. So what do we see right now within the price action of Bitcoin on the 2-hour time frame? We do see that we are creating a squeeze with a series of lower highs. So this is a series of lower highs creating a descending trend line. And then we see a series of higher lows. Anchor point, key level of support, and then we see that support hold one more time. So on the larger kind of overall structure of the market, we are consolidating, forming a wedge where we have to make a decision at some point in time. But we're still a pretty good a ways before we hit the apex, which is the end point of the triangle. And we've just broken from a descending wedge, which is a bullish pattern. If it breaks the resistance, it could melt down, but we did move to the upside. We got a strong bullish engulfing candle that drove the price above the key level of resistance. We retested this previous resistance as a new level of support really well, broke the descending zone, retested that for a new level of support, and then absolutely blew through the roof of that current resistance. And now we're sitting at around $9,400-ish for the new level that we are currently somewhat holding. We'll see how that goes. It's around here. So I currently think that we will hit this resistance yet again to continue the triangle sideways until we do get a break either to the upside or downside. And let's look at the larger time frame just to get a good analysis of what we're currently seeing within the markets on the larger time frame. So I'll just take this off. I'll take this off. And I think I'm going to keep it just like that. So if we kind of zoom out here a little bit, we understand that we are in a macro symmetrical triangle pattern. So if we're actually looking at the 2-hour chart in that descending zone and the ascending zone squeezing towards an apex, that's also somewhat showing on the weekly chart, although obviously this is more macro, more valid, and we play it differently depending on the time frame that we are looking at. But in terms of the structure, we see that the apex could be all the way until January 2021. Obviously, I do not think that is going to be the case, but you never know within the market. So what we're looking at right now is, let's just go to the daily. We know that there is a major symmetrical triangle on the weekly chart, which is showing this red zone as a major level of resistance where there's going to be sellers within this range. We also know that there is a lot of demand at this ascending support level. So these are the two zones that we're currently looking at within the larger time frames. And then within the smaller time frames, we have a nice little squeeze happening right here. So the question is the large triangle going to be complete because of the fundamentals, because of the demand for Bitcoin, and we will get a breakout to the upside? That is option number one within this symmetrical triangle. And then option number two would be a break to the downside, where we would then go back into the triangle, deepening in the squeeze, contracting in volatility, and then we would have to wait until another potential setup where we would get something like this. We might get another dip down, and then we might touch the support yet again. We don't exactly know, but that is the overall options that I currently see within the market. And right now, I'm still looking at this just as a firstly, a potential reaccumulation phase if it does move to the upside, and if it is the top where this is the resistance that it is not going to go above, this would be the distribution phase where then we would have our momentum to the downside come in soon after if it does break that nice ascending support zone right over there. The $8,500 zone, in my opinion, is that final level of support that I want to see hold. If it breaks below the $8,500 level, that's going to be my indication that the confidence from the bulls is diminishing and the confidence from the bears is strengthening. So that's going to be my horizontal key level that I'm going to be looking for in order to speculate that the bulls are either going to gain momentum and break through, or if it does break below the 85, that would definitely be a red flag for me to potentially look for sells. So that's going to be the overall structure of Bitcoin. It's looking pretty good right now. Like I said, I think it could go a little bit higher, but at that point, we'll see what it does. I'm pretty happy with that move right there. I got in after that little retest, which was not bad, and then I'm just basically risk-free trading at this point in the money, and then seeing if it'll go a little bit higher here to the key level of resistance. That would be good, and I think I will take profits off because the squeezing and the symmetrical triangle, in my opinion, kind of could go either way to some degree. I was more bearish than bullish for a while, but with the discussion of GrayScale, with the understanding of the global macro understanding that money is being printed like no tomorrow by all central banks, or most central banks, not just the Fed, but you see Europe just come out with, I think it was like 750 billion euros or something along the lines of that, for a package to help with the aid of the crisis. You're seeing Bank of Japan print, you're seeing New Zealand, Australia, Canada, obviously the Federal Reserve. So you're seeing all these major central banks print a ton of money, and has to go somewhere. And I think the debasement of the currency kind of whole system is going to happen within probably a lot of our lifetimes who are watching. So yeah, that's basically the overall analysis that I see on the macro time frame. And then on the smaller time frame, I do see a nice squeeze here that could potentially move to the downside a little bit, and that could be a potential short-term short exposure trade that could provide some opportunities with some solid risk reward parameters. But in terms of the larger time frame, if we're talking all of 2020, I'm very bullish on cryptocurrencies altogether, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the other coins that provide a lot of liquidity, which if you're having $10 million, $100 million, you want liquidity when you're investing. You're not going to look for some tiny, tiny market cap coin that you think is going to moon with a low probability chance. Just makes sense to trade things with more liquidity if you have lots of money, basically. So that's going to be the video for today. Not really going to get into these alts. I will talk about it within the Performante Premium people. Probably going to make a video with some alts going pretty deep into the structure of them, because if it does break to the upside, that's definitely pretty bullish all around for the cryptocurrency market. So thank you very much for watching. I will answer all questions at the end of this video, but that will be the completion of this recording. Thank you very much for watching. It was a little bit shorter today, but I want to keep it sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, but less rambling, more straight to the facts. I think that might be better. If you found this educational, informative, entertaining, it'd be great if you would subscribe to our channel and like this video. It does help us out, and we appreciate it greatly. And for people who have been commenting kind words, we appreciate it yet again, and thank you very much. So we really appreciate the view, and until next time, have a good one and happy trading, folks.